I'm so high on this player. I was high on him right away. I picked him to win the Calder in the year that he came in. He did that, and I've just been following him ever since. Big fan of his.
You're now listening to the Boys in the Booth podcast with your hosts, Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah!
Good evening and welcome to episode 185 of the podcast. All three of us back together for this one. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne. The NHL season is underway, which is fantastic. Guys, how we doing?
Doing great, Harp. Watching lots of hockey, so couldn't be happier.
Yeah, same here. Doing well. So excited that hockey's back. Austin Matthews was shot out of a cannon, 2 games, 6 goals. Didn't get any in his third game, and it was a loss to the Blackhawks, so we don't talk about that one. But just happy that hockey's back and ready to get into this episode. Harper, how you doing?
I'm good, man. And before we get going with this episode, I did just want to mention the passing of Neil McHugh last week, longtime voice of the Brockville Braves, and someone who is very good to me. And as you guys know, I have the pleasure and the joy of calling Braves games every Friday night, and so it was great to do the game on Friday in his honor, and they got their first win of the season that night. So anyway, just wanted to mention that, and condolences to his family and friends.
Very nice. Okay, so before we get into the regularly scheduled programming here, we're going to do another one of my fun mini games that Harper loves so much. Still don't have a name for this segment, but I'm just going to call it mini games from here on out. Going to do wavelength. We've done this in the past. Harper's finally familiar with the rules. Casey has a number that Harper and I don't know, and we're going to try to guess it. So Casey, first question to you. I'm going to need a center on a Canadian team.
Cool. Let me confirm
that he has taken some face-offs this year.
I'll go Sam Lafferty.
Oh, okay. I see the confusion why you're curious if he'd taken some face-offs. Right away, Harper, out of the gate, I'm thinking low. I'm thinking maybe a 2 or a 3. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go with a 3.
All right.
Okay, Case, first overall picks.
I'll go Eric Johnson.
Oh, okay. It's got to be low after that. I mean, we've got Lafferty as a center. I think that's a 2. Eric Johnson as a first overall pick. Not a great one, but also pretty serviceable late in his career. Maybe a 3. I'm still thinking 3. How about you, Harp?
Yeah, let's stick with 3.
Okay. Next one for you, Case. Give me a prospect who is not playing in the NHL from an Eastern Conference team. Making you think for this one.
Yeah, that's Jesus. That's making me think pretty deeply here. I'll say Daniel Musil.
Okay. So right away I'm thinking higher than 3 because he's in the Devils system and we hyped him up during the World Juniors, but still, there are so many good prospects, so many mid-range prospects. He could have said any other name, and I feel like that was just off the top of the head because he's in the Devil system. I'm thinking now 3, maybe a 4, but still in that 2 to 4 range. Harper, what do you think?
I was thinking that as well, a 3 or a 4. I'll go with a 4.
Okay. Final question to you, Harper.
Okay. So number 4, Case, defenseman in the Western Conference. So pretty general, but our last one, D in the West.
This needs to be a good one for us, Harp, because we really aren't sure at this point.
Yeah.
God. D in the West. I'll say Nikita Zaitsev.
Oh.
Wow. Thoughts on that, Harp?
Well, that kind of that kind of drops things a bit, doesn't it? Sorry
okay.
to Nikita Zaitsev.
I mean, we're 2 or a 3. I'm thinking 2, maybe. We were 3 all throughout, but Harp, what do you think? Are you sticking with 3, or do you want to go down to a 2 after that last one? Make the final call. It's up to you. It's in your hands. I think I called the last one, so it's in your hands.
Let's go with a 3.
That's it. Nailed
Let's
it.
go.
All right.
It is not an easy task to think of a prospect not in the NHL that's a 3. Like,
I know.
I just have all those on the top of my head.
I know. And Case, trust me, even if you were asking me, I would hope you ask easier questions. I just knew you had that knowledge in you, so I just had to send you that question. And overall, Harp, I think we did a pretty good job with questions and figuring it out with a 3. So there we go.
Yes, and full disclosure, thank you to you two for explaining it to me again. Before we got on here, I will fully admit that on the pod while we're going here. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, for the 10th time.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not going to tell them about the time in the car. That stays between us. All right, let's get into this one, boys. It's just going to be a quickie. Obviously the season is underway. Every team is 2 to 4 games in at this point, I think. Maybe not 4 games, but 2 to 3 games into the season anyways. And we're just going to each throw out a bold prediction. Obviously, we know it's early, but hey, this is why it's fun to do these bold predictions and throw some things out there and see what sticks later on maybe. So, Case, let's go to you first, man. Bold prediction for this season, given the fact that it is early.
Oh, it's early. I had Canadian teams on my mind today, and I thought, why not double down on my kind of bullish take on the Vancouver Canucks this year? And I am going to say, I'll give the light display in the background for the visual watchers.
There we go.
Elias Pettersson will win the Hart this year. That is my bold prediction. I'm gonna go into it here, and it's gonna be a lot of stats, but I'm so high on this player. I was high on him right away. I picked him to win the Calder in the year that he came in. He did that, and I've just been following him ever since. Big fan of his. Last year, 80 games played, 39 goals, 63 assists, 102 points. That's 10th in the league for points. He had 74 hits, 89 blocks, 56 takeaways, 47 giveaways, and was a plus 16 on a non-playoff team. 20 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time is the 13th most as a forward in the league. Only JT Miller was more than him, and it was by seconds. They played a lot together. He was 7th in Selke voting, 8th in Bing, 18th in the Hart, although I think he deserves more and probably would be more if his team was a playoff team. Mm-hmm. And God, this guy he's fun to watch. Kind of the reasons why I think that he's going to be a Hart this year, the Hart winner rather, is last year was just the start for him for scoring. He has a lethal shot. His release is, unique, really. It's just effortless, and I love to watch it. It looks like he's not putting anything into the shot, but it's going 100 miles an hour. And that shot, he's electing to use more. Last year, his shot attempts were 489. The year before, 387 in the same amount of games. That's an increase of 102 more shot attempts this year. Or last year. 28 of his goals, of his 39 goals, 28 of them were even strength, 40 even strength assists. 5 of his goals were shorthanded, and 6 of them were on the power play. I expect more power play goals and points from this, top unit of Pettersson, Miller, Besser, Hughes, Kuzmenko. They're all looking dangerous so far this year. He already has 4 power play points compared to his 25 last year. Kind of the next point is that he's just such an all-around player. We saw that in the Selke and Bing and Hart voting last year, but kind of despite being a relatively slight player at 176 pounds, he throws the body around. 74 hits last year was massive for the size of him, and we've already seen one
Yes.
catastrophic hit on Cece this year. And there was a pretty big one in the preseason on, I think it was Lane Peterson, also on Edmonton. So I guess maybe he just hates Edmonton. Who knows? But yeah, he throws the body around. I love to see that. 89 blocks last year was second most after Matthews by a forward. And the guy is smart with the puck. 47 giveaways is quite low for someone who has the puck as much as him. McDavid, for example, 77, Draisaitl 102, Kucherov 98, and 109 for David Pastrnak, just to kind of name the top point getters in the league last year. Mm-hmm. One of the next points, or the penultimate point I'm going to make here, is he'd be much higher in the voting last year if it wasn't for his team being outside the playoffs. And I think it's going to be a playoff team this year. Last year, the save percentage was second last in the league. Demko is back. He was sick this week, but his first game looked great. They had a great second half under Tocchet last year. They're 20-12-4, and they have a hot start so far this year, beating Edmonton 8-1 and 4-3. And that's the team that's supposed to win their division. So hot start. And then the last point is, it's his year. He's got to go off. Contract year next year. He's going to be looking for the bank. So I'm pretty high on Pettersson. I'm expecting 45 goals, 65 assists this year, 110 points, and a Hart Trophy as his team makes the playoffs. Pretty bold take, but I'm happy about it.
So I just want everyone to let it be known that Casey thinks the downfall of Connor McDavid is on the horizon. He will not win the Hart Trophy this year. He will not even sniff the top of the scoring charts. That's what Casey's saying.
Yeah,
right?
That's definitely what I said when I said bold take. No, obviously it's bold because guys like McDavid and Pastrnak and Jack Hughes have much higher odds, especially according to Vegas, to win the Hart. And obviously McDavid is like a shoe-in every single year. My bold take, my hot take, is that Pettersson's going to be there. And, if not, I expect him to be top 3.
Yeah, I was just teasing because obviously McDavid is he's like a lock almost for all like the big trophies, the Art Ross, even the Rocket last year. Like I feel like he has more Rockets in him, and then the Hart Trophy, which he's won countless times. Similar to a Crosby who just kind of owned all the awards for like a decade. I feel like we're in Connor McDavid's decade, but that's what makes this a bold take. Or a bold prediction, and I could see it, honestly. If McDavid takes a little bit of a step back, doesn't get 150 plus points, same with Draisaitl, same with an Austin Matthews if he doesn't score 60 goals or something, then yeah, I could see a player like Pettersson taking a step, scoring more, getting more power play points. I like that point you made, Case, because I think their power play is going to be a lot better this year. Or even a player like Kirill Kaprizov, who these are guys who aren't surrounded as well as some other superstars and sort of are able to just do it themselves. And those two specifically stand out to me. So I could see it happening. I think it is a bold take, but I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I could as well. I mean, this is not the only time that we've talked about Elias Pettersson and what a big year this is for him. And I think that this is going to be a massive year. And I think that the biggest thing that sticks out to me about Pettersson is that he looks bigger, he looks stronger, he's out there to cause havoc. And on top of being a great offensive talent and doing everything he possibly can to help his team to win. And I do agree. I think that it's very likely that this Canucks team is a playoff team. Case, you're not the only one to say that, but Pettersson in a contract year, the step that he took last year, and the way that he's looked through the first couple of games of the season, I know it's early, but really in the last couple of years, like we've seen wide open Hart Trophy races for a good first chunk of the season, and then McDavid just finds a way to go off and lock it down. But I'd be willing to put some money on Pettersson kind of being a dark horse pick for the Hart. I think he's going to have a massive year, and this is not the only time we've mentioned this.
Kind of the main point I'm trying to make here is it's going to be a similar in Taylor Hall, not quite as much because Pettersson has a much better team around him than Taylor Hall did in 2017, 2018, that season.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this is a team that, for the most part, is not expected to make the playoffs by, a lot of the media and everyone, Vegas even. He's going to push them over the edge and get them into a playoff spot. And I think that there is a tendency sometimes to kind of look away from McDavid scoring 120 points and getting in the playoffs again and look towards someone who's really carrying in a different way. Like, McDavid should win every year because he is the most valuable player in the entire league. He should win the Ted Lindsay every year as well. But I think that sometimes they kind of try to look for someone else. They try to look for a player who's, really stepped up in one season, kind of similar to Taylor Hall. So,
and the award is most valuable player to your team.
Yeah.
So if McDavid, say he has 125 points. He had, I think, 153 last year or something. So
he just last year. I'm not like...
Yeah. So say he has like 125, but Draisaitl also has around that same range. Then, you can make the argument that maybe he's not even the most important to his team for this season. Whereas a player like I mentioned, Kirill Kaprizov, who isn't surrounded to the same extent, if he drags his team to the playoffs, and of course I mentioned Kaprizov because he's in a similar situation as Elias Pettersson, if they're able to drag their team to the playoffs and be the most important piece to their team, then that goes a long way in terms of voting. So
yeah,
that's why it is feasible. It's not that bold, actually, especially if McDavid has a bit of a down year. And as long as no one scores, 60 to 70 goals, but I could see it happening.
I'm sure the YouTube comments are going to love this part where you mentioned that if McDavid had similar points to Draisaitl, maybe he's not the most important to his team.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of voting, at least, the argument could be made. Because Draisaitl will likely have more goals. I mean, except for last year, Draisaitl outscored McDavid almost every year of their career. I mean, until he told McDavid to shoot more, and he said, okay, I'll score 64 goals. Like, he's that good. Yeah. But something I wanted to mention, too, is, just piggybacking off what you said in Rick Tocchet, how they played really well under him last year in Vancouver. I wonder if instead of looking to Elias Pettersson as a Hart Trophy candidate, they just don't look at the players at all and they look to Tocchet as a Jack Adams candidate, because a lot of the time that's what happens. It's a team who is sort of on the bubble or not expected to make it to the playoffs, and then they get a new coach and he takes them to the promised land, or at least into the playoffs, into the first round, and then that's what is sort of a convincing argument for coach of the year. So I wonder if those two things can exist simultaneously, or how the narrative will develop throughout the season.
I like Lindy Ruff as much as the next Devils fan, but he was a finalist for the award last year, and it's mostly because his team took a huge step and had that huge the massive point comeback from one season to another and made the playoffs. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's very likely as well. Tocchet for the Jack Adams. I think they were 20-12-2 down the stretch after he took over, and they won their first two games. It took them 9 games last year, fellas, for them to get their first 2 wins. The Canucks, think about that. It's a different looking team. Yeah, that's for sure, even though it's early. Okay, Case, good stuff, man. Chad, let's get your bold prediction.
What's up, guys? Thanks for making it this far into the podcast. We hope you're enjoying the show so far. I just want to let you know that we're still doing a limited time merch drop over on boysinthebooth.com/shop. We're selling t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, crew necks, sweat shorts, slides, you name it. We're selling it at boysinthebooth.com, so head over there and check it out when you can. Every single purchase allows us to improve the quality of our podcasts going forward. Plus, you get to wear some awesome gear too and support the boys. So we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. This podcast is sponsored by Liquid IV. Whether you're staying active or nursing a hangover, Liquid IV has you covered. Just 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates faster and more efficiently than water alone. There's plenty of awesome flavors, but my personal favorite is lemon lime. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code boys_in_the_booth at checkout. That's 20% off anything in the store when you order using the promo code boys_in_the_booth. Experience better hydration today with Liquid IV. This podcast is sponsored by the best ticket app out there, SeatGeek. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals on tickets to your favorite sporting events. Plus, Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first ticket purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code Boys in the Booth in all caps. So click the link down below to download the app and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code Boys in the Booth in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek. Okay, my bold prediction, speaking of the Hart Trophy case, I'm not picking a player to win the Hart Trophy, but it might be a byproduct if this type of season happens. Surprise, surprise, I'm going to pick Austin Matthews to score 66 plus goals this season to be the most ever as a Rocket Richard winner. Most ever, wow. Because the trophy isn't that old.
That is old.
It would be the most in the modern era scored by a player. Like I mentioned, he has 6 through his first 3 games. I think he's back with a high-flying offense in Toronto that isn't focused as much on playing defense. I think that this player is going to be freewheeling around the offensive zone and is just going to let the NHL know that, you know, yes, I scored 40 goals last year, but that was a down year. Who I really am is the 60-plus goal scorer. And I think why not top Alex Ovechkin in 07-08, who had 65, and get the 66th? That's my bold take.
I like it, and I think you're baiting the comments now. You're just waiting for a comment to be like, oh, Solani had more. Oh, Wayne Gretzky scored this many in this year. It's like, yeah, they just forgot to listen to the part where you said in the modern era with the Rocket Richard Trophy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, Matthews took a step back last year, and he looks hungry. He's already at 6 goals, which is ridiculous. No one saw him scoring 2 hat tricks, but I think I got to remind you that we are talking about Mr. October. Mm-hmm. Typically scores a ridiculous amount of goals in October every single year, except last year when he came in with a wrist injury. But a healthy Austin Matthews, I don't think, you're blinking an eye at him scoring 55 goals. So I guess you're tacking 11 on there and seeing him score 66 makes it the bold part, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be bold to just say, I think Matthews is going to have a bounce back year and score 50 plus. You have to go the extra mile and say 66, the most in the modern era. Rocket Richard Trophy was established in 1999, so it will be the most ever from a Rocket Richard winner. But I just think he's poised to do it this year. This is the first season in what feels like forever, at least in his prime, that he's completely healthy coming into the year. There's no nagging wrist injury. Also, like I mentioned, this is a team that is much more focused on offense. And as we've seen in the 3 games so far, they really don't seem to care that much about defense. So I think that is only a good thing for Austin Matthews in terms of individual accolades. All of that being said, and I heard this from Chris Johnston today on the Leaf Report, the Athletic podcast. Chris Johnston with the Athletic, by the way, now. That was Jonas Siegel and James Myrtle. Chris Johnston mentioned that, Matthews, although he wants these individual accolades, of course, at the end of the day, this is his 8th season and he wants a Stanley Cup. So even though that this is my prediction, if it comes time, there's a month or 2 left in the season and they're not exactly doing as well as they thought they were going to do, maybe the defense starts to come first and he doesn't reach 66 plus goals. But that's my bold prediction, and I could see it happening after a down year last year.
Well, the early returns certainly look good through the first few games of the season for him to hit that milestone. And I mean, look, like it could happen with that release. I mean, it is one of, if not the best in the NHL. And it's crazy that we're even talking about a player having a down year, but still having 40 goals, being a down year, that's just crazy. But Austin Matthews has put himself in that stratosphere, if you will, and he certainly could go out and get 60 or just over 60 again. So I do think it slows down a little bit, and he has some stretches of games through the year where the Leafs are really grinding, and he may struggle a little bit to find the back of the net. But for right now, he's healthy. He looks good. He's got that fresh contract, and it all looks good right now. So you never know.
McDavid had 64 last year. Just 2 more than that would do it for the most in the modern era. I think we can all agree that Matthews is probably a better goal scorer than McDavid. I mean, no one has more goals since entering the league. So
he's on pace for 164. So
he's on pace for quite a bit. Case should have done it after 2 games. It was 246 or something like that. So yeah. Anyway, could see it.
Jeez. Yeah, there we go. Another good bold prediction, and I'll wrap it up with mine here, guys. Obviously, so again, really, really bold prediction, I think. But there are a lot of good rookies this year. So my bold prediction is that Connor Bedard does not win the Calder Trophy.
That's a cop out. Come on.
Harp missed our last episode, eh?
Are you serious, Harp? That's that's the boldest prediction you could come up with?
His bold prediction last year is that someone was going to sign a contract, so
Oh, yeah, Shane Gostisbehere to re-sign in Arizona, I think it was.
Okay, no, I don't accept this. I know, I don't care. I don't accept this. I know your bold prediction, you want it to be Connor Bedard will not win the Calder Trophy. I don't care. You need to pick somebody who is going to win instead of Connor Bedard to make this pick and prediction extra spicy and extra bold. That's what I need from you,
okay.
Harper.
Okay.
I'll put my life savings on betting on who Harper's going to pick.
All right, let's have it.
It's going to be Logan Cooley. Like, the guy is the biggest Arizona fan in the world and loves Logan Cooley as much as he loves Tyler Ennis.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, yes, let's go with that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And
Harp, didn't mean to derail you. Give me why you think Bedard
that is quite all right.
win.
Yeah, why won't Bedard win it?
Yeah, and then tell me about Cooley, because that's your locked in pick.
Well, and again, it's early, and it is a bold take because, I mean, let's face it, Bedard is a generational talent. I think it's safe to say to put that tag on him, and is the favorite to win the Calder Trophy. But you look around that Chicago lineup, and he doesn't have the supporting cast that some of these other guys do. And you look at Logan Cooley in Arizona, who is and he's got Keller around him and Schmaltz and all these great players. And not to say that Chicago doesn't have anyone else besides Bedard, but it really thins out. And Taylor Hall was back in the lineup, of course, the other night against Toronto. But especially when he's out, or Athanasiou, or any of these guys are out, it really makes it more challenging for him. As talented as he is, he's a young kid coming into the league. The NHL's hard, man. In your first year, there's going to be some growing pains for him, even though he is going to be one of the next great ones. I just think that a guy like Logan Cooley could really grab this thing, and it's a bold prediction. I get it, but he's got a pretty good surrounding cast in Arizona, a lot better than Bedard has in Chicago, and Arizona is a team that could very well be playing meaningful games down the stretch. So there we go. But no, don't apologize for derailing me at all. I'm glad that second question came up here. So anyway, what do we think about that to finish off?
Well, as Casey and I talked about last week when we talked about the Calder rankings and we did our snake draft, we had Cooley number 4 and Bedard number 1, which I guess shows you why this is a bold take or a bold prediction. But what Casey and I talked about, really, it came down to opportunity. And even though Bedard isn't surrounded by the most talented players, he is going to get every opportunity on the planet to prove that he belongs in the NHL as an elite player. So he's going to get first power play time, first line minutes, 5-on-5, like total, he's going to play like 20 minutes a night. We've already seen that. Yes, he's going to play against some pretty good competition, but they're going to do everything they can to get him out there in favorable matchups too. Whereas a guy like Logan Cooley, to start the season, I think he was slotted in as the second line center.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's going to bounce around the lineup a bit because Arizona has other players who can kind of slot in and play up and down the lineup and give you something else other than just offensive firepower that Cooley brings. Yes, he's going to get power play time, but I just don't know if he's going to get the same opportunity of Bedard. So I guess there's a bit of a push and pull there. Yes, you want tons of opportunity, but at the same time, you also need players to pass to, and those two players are in slightly different situations. So I guess it just depends which situation you think is best.
Yeah, and in the end, I wonder how much weight that the voters put into secondary assists, which I just feel like Cooley's going to have more secondary assists in the end. That's just based off having more guys to pass to and more, chain passes and power play points, etc. But I will say that I've been impressed with Cooley since the start of the season. We thought he was going to get less of an opportunity, but he's played 19 minutes a game and has 3 points in 3 assists. He hasn't produced much in terms of offense, like himself. He's not driving, but he's definitely been in the play when they're scoring. Like his expected goals is 0.1 through 2 games. So, that's relatively low, but it's 2 games. What am I even like? How much can I really say? I think it's going to be a close race between the two of them. Cooley's definitely going to be up there in the voting. Like we mentioned that last week, but I think what does make this bold is that everyone thinks it's going to be Bedard, and as it's all you hear in the media right now. That's why Taylor Hall is telling everyone to shut up, because it's probably weighing pretty heavily on Bedard, but he's also looked good so far, so it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. And I mean, by no means, I'd be a nutcase if I were saying that that Bedard didn't look good. He looks absolutely fantastic. And he is a play driver right now for the Blackhawks. Logan Cooley may become that for Arizona as the season goes on, or one of those guys. Obviously, it's Clayton Keller that's the play driver, the number one guy for Arizona. But Cooley, could end up being up there depending on what kind of year he has. So he'll be up there for sure, and that's why it's a bold taking him to win it.
He's good, man.
In the game that I watched of Arizona against New Jersey, where Arizona won shootout. What stood out, the only 2 players that stood out to me, the rest of Arizona meld into one clump of a player, was Logan Cooley and Vejmelka, who, of course, he played unbelievable. He's playing a team that they shouldn't beat. That's when he shows up every game. He shows up for top 5 teams or top 10 teams or whatever you want to say.
Way it goes.
So those 2 guys stood out to me. Everyone else kind of looked like one big ball of a player.
Yeah. Got Vejmelka, at least, in case you haven't been able to say yet that your team got Soderblommed, because that's what happened to the Maple Leafs the other night. Yeah. Even though, that was just, he didn't even have a fantastic game. They just couldn't score. But the one thing I wanted to mention about Bedard, did you guys see how he got absolutely cleaned out in his first game against Sid on the faceoffs? Not even close. And obviously that's tough for a young player. And faceoffs really, we know by the numbers, the advanced numbers, they don't really dictate play that much anyways, because the game is so fast. But it was just kind of funny. They kept showing his highlights and, lost another one. Lost another one. It's like, what are you going to do? Man, it's dad strength. I remember when I was 17, 18, you end up playing in a men's league and you lose every faceoff because they're forearms, or I don't know. They just have dad strength. And I think Sidney Crosby has that strength. All these guys who have been in the league for so long, it's you come in as an 18-year-old and you get absolutely ripped apart. That's why they probably should have a center playing on Bedard's wing to take some draws like
the Devils did with Jack and Howla last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's the great thing about Crosby. He probably was thinking, this is great. This kid is awesome, but I'm gonna kill this kid tonight in the face-off circle, and he certainly did. So, great that the season is underway, fellas. I mean, it's so great to have it all back, and you guys talking about how the Devils got Vejmelka and the Leafs got Soderblom. Well, we'll see what happens tonight at KeyBank against Tampa if we get Tompkins or Johansson's, or I guess, or whatever, a former Sabre, by the way. So can't wait for that to be brought up next week. It's very likely.
Oh, yeah. I'm putting money on that right now, especially if it's Tompkins. I'd like to see Tompkins a team. I'd like to see that happen.
Oh, what a great story about that guy as well. Just a point to get in there. But anyway, anything else, boys, before we wrap up?
Actually, yeah, I've kind of forgot that our fantasy season started. Instead of going into Fantasy Corner right now, let's decide if that's something we want to do going forward, and we'll set it up properly for next episode. But yeah, just for everyone listening, fantasy hockey is back, and I lost my first week, but it's not going to happen many more times going forward.
I got killed the first week in both the leagues that I'm in, ours and another one.
I did not. I had almost twice as many points as my opponent, and absolutely lit them up. Got the points from all the guys I expected, past Jack Hughes, but got some production from where I did not expect it in Chandler Stevenson at 24 points and Mangiapane at 16.75. So
there you go. I picked up Mangiapane in, not sure if it was our league or my other league.
Well, he's on my team, so it'd be hard to pick him up.
So my other league then, so expecting him to have a good week. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up then, Harper, and we'll probably do Fantasy Corner next week and going forward.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, Chandler Stevenson, great player, and I think this is a contract year for him. The guy's making $2.75 million, and they picked him up for a 5th-round pick, if you can remember that. And the guy won a Stanley Cup with Vegas, and he's a great player, man.
Oh, he should be clearing that $6 million no problem next year.
Absolutely. Oof. All right, that was a good one, fellas. Thanks for this one, and great to have all three of us back on for this episode. Of course, 185, and we'll be back with 186 next week. Take care, enjoy the games.
This has been another episode of Boys in the Booth with Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams. Connect with the Boys in the Booth on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Boys in the Booth. Visit boysinthebooth.com for show details. And don't forget, you can become a patron of the podcast for just $1 a month at patreon.com/boysinthebooth.